Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Daniel, and this is my 2021 Toyota Tacoma Trail Edition. This is part 2 of the hidden bumper light bar install. So the first part was the actual physical install of the light bar itself, and now we're going to be wiring it up. So we have quite a few pieces here that we're going to be using. I've made a couple purchases since the first video to kind of help tidy up the engine bay with all the wiring and all that good stuff. So let's get into what those are going to be. So the first things that we already had were the wiring harness, okay, and the push button switch for inside the cabin, okay, and that comes with its own wire harness. All right, so some things that I purchased to help make this install look a little cleaner. So we know that wiring harnesses have, the ones you should be using, have a relay on them. What I did was I purchased from Cali Raised LED a relay holder. Okay, so that's that guy there. And that is going to mount right here. So this is going to be, you're going to be able to use this if you have an automatic transmission. Guys and ladies with the manual transmission, this is where your clutch cylinder goes, so you won't be able to use this part. But all you automatic transmission people will be able to use this part. And the relays kind of just hang on there like this. So I plan on doing some ditch lights as well. So I'll have 2 spots to put those relays, and it'll make it look nice instead of having everything flop around inside the engine bay. Another thing I bought to help clean things up was a fuse block. So this fuse block will have one connection to the positive terminal of the battery, and then one of these connections over here will be a ground. So I don't have a bunch of positive leads going to the battery and a whole bunch of negative leads going to ground bolts. So this will make this make the engine bay look a lot neater. It also comes with a package of labels. They have everything you can think of. This is made for like cars, RVs, boats. So there's a bunch of stuff that that's in here, like bilge pumps and stuff like that. But they have a bunch of different things so you can label all of your spots here for easy identification. And they also come with a bunch of blade fuses. So there's no need to use an add a fuse with this because each of these spots is going to have its own blade fuse. All right. And one last thing that I got was this. So this I'm going to put at the terminal for the light bar. So the light bar itself came with just 2 red and black wire, 2 wires only, and they're bare leads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these quick connects to it, so it can just snap together and it's nice and secure. Right? Do that and then put the other end onto the wiring harness. So if I have to change out the light bar or something crazy happens, need to troubleshoot, it's really easy to disconnect the light bar and be able to plug it back in without having to cut and splice again. So with all of that said and done, it's time to do the install. So where we left off was the light bar was installed, and so now we're going to run the wiring. So for the wiring, first thing I'm going to do is connect this male connector to the light bar leads. And to do that, I'm going to be using these guys. All right, so these are like butt connectors in the fact that the 2 leads will go into them like that. But for these, so on both ends there's a red band, and in the middle there's a black band. That black band is actually solder. So what happens is you use a heat gun with this. You put the 2 leads in and you use the heat gun to shrink it. This acts as shrink wrap and it melts the solder, so you have a stronger physical connection between the 2 wires. So we're going to go and do that. Let's get everything ready to go, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so we are now going to splice the male plug onto the leads from the light bar, and we're just going to simply go red to red and black to black. All right, so first thing I want to do is take off these wire end caps here from where they strip the wire. All right, and I'm going to strip these wires a little bit more, and to do that I'm going to be using these wire strippers. If you don't have a pair of these are probably the easiest way to strip wires. All you do is simply put the wire in, up against the yellow stopper, and squeeze. And that's it. All right, so let's go ahead and looks good here. And black one, do a little bit shallower. There we go. Didn't really do anything. Or not. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be using these butt connectors. So like I said, these butt connectors are waterproof and they are activated with a heat gun. The red spots here are going to be the seals. The clear tube is shrink tubing, and in the center here, that is actually a thing of solder. So the two wires go in to each other, and it kind of works like a butt connector. All right, so we'll start here, put the red wire in, and we'll put this red wire in, twist it first. It's going to be a little harder to do here. Let's get this nice and twisted, nice and neat. Okay, so we are twisted nice and neat. So there's a wire there. Put in the red wire for the light bar. Yeah, what's going on here? Looks like this one shrank a little bit on one end. Kind of gotta twist it and push it in. And this one, push in. All right, and let's use our heat gun and shrink it down. If our heat gun worked. Okay, heat gun should be working, so let's do this. Try and get it in front here so you can see. Solder hot so it'll flow. All right, let's take a look at it. Ooh, that is hot. And that did not work. So let's try this again. Okay, so it looks like these connectors were made for two different gauges of wire. These two are the same gauge. I want to say that they're 18 gauge, but this side was made for something like 16, so it just barely fits. So what I had to do is strip the wire for the male connector a little longer so it got to that black bead there. And I was mistaken. I thought this was solder, but this is just another piece of shrink wrap. So, or shrink bead rather. So it kind of melts and pushes everything together, and these red beads melt and create a watertight seal. So I have this one here. I've pushed everything in. So let's go ahead and use the heat gun on it so you can see it work. There we go. And now our connector for the light bar is complete. We can go ahead and put the grill back on. So we still have the grill off, so we can go and put that back on. And it's going to be put on the same way it was taken off, just in reverse. So we'll go ahead and do that. While I'm doing that, we will feed this through where the headlight goes. And just hang it up here so that it's out of the way. All right, so let's put the grill back on. All right, so grill, line it up. And the first thing we're gonna do is sure all the clips are in, and then we're going to go up top. We're going to put in our 2 push pins at the headlights, one on either side, and then the 2 10mm bolts here, and then we'll hook up the TSS sensor. So let's go ahead and do that. So push pin into the hole, push down, into the hole, push down. Use our driver for the 10mm bolts. All right. And the last thing we're going to do, camera here, is hook up the TSS sensor again. All right, so fish it out from down here. Go ahead and plug it in. Make sure you hear it click. And then we also want to put this holder back up through the hole. Remember, we squeezed that out with a pair of needle nose. All right, and now our grill is back on, and it's time to work with the harness. So first thing that we're going to do with the harness is I'm going to connect this female adapter for male adapter so that we can easily plug it in, unplug it from the light bar. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so this is the wiring harness. It can look a little daunting, a little confusing, so let's go ahead and go over all the parts for it, okay? So at the top, what is it, right here, that is your relay, and that is where the power is going to go in, okay? So you have your 2 power leads here. You have the red. On this wiring harness, there is a fuse already there. So the red, and that's going to go to our positive terminal. And again, we're going to be using a fuse box, so it's going to go into the positive terminal of the fuse box. And then you have the negative or black lead there, and that's going to go to the negative side of our fuse box and be grounded to the body of the truck. Okay, so if you think of the relay as the head of the wiring harness, you have 2 legs. Okay, you have one leg coming down here, and you have one leg going over here. All right, so the one coming down here is the switch. All right, so this is an aftermarket switch. Again, we're going to be using the Cali raised LED factory style light bar switch. So we are going to be cutting off that switch right about there and attaching our own switch. But this is a switch leg, and then this is the output leg. So this is what is connected to the light bar. Now, if you look, so I've already soldered the female connector to our lead here, okay? And if you look, there's another lead coming out. This is a universal wiring harness, and you can use it for up to 2 different outputs. So this could be used, for example, ditch lights, where you have 2, one on either side of the car. One would go here and the other would go here. I'm going to leave this leg on. I'm just going to tie it up and tuck it neatly away in the under the hood in case for whatever reason I want to add another light onto this circuit. I can do that. So this is what the wiring harness looks like. I figured I'd let you see it out here before we go into the engine bay, and then where it's all jumbled up. So let's get into the engine bay and see what we got. Okay guys, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to install the Cali raised LED relay holder. Okay, so the relay holder comes with the relay holder itself and 2 bolts to bolt it onto the body. So like I said, we're going to be using these 2 factory nuts here, or holes here, that are tapped for these bolts. Again, this is where the master clutch cylinder sits for the manual transmission trucks. So if you have a manual transmission, you're out of luck for this one. But since I have an automatic, we can go ahead and do this. So we'll go ahead and install this here. Okay, so if you look at your relay, you have this piece of metal here, and this is used for mounting the relay, okay? If you didn't have this mounting plate, you would use this. You'd find a place to screw it in, and you'd use a screw here to secure it wherever you need to do it, okay? However, these metal plates come out, so you can just lift up on it, the plate comes out, and where this plate was, there's a groove in there. That's where you're going to hang it on this relay hanger, okay? So we'll go ahead and do that. A little difficult to do while it's dark. Looks like we have to loosen it first. Loosen this side since it's easier to get to. Okay, so it's all loosened up. So we will slip this onto one of the teeth. Always looks easier when someone else does it, doesn't it? Except for this time. There we go. It was in the wrong spot, that's why. Okay, so there it is. I'll move it over here to this one so I can get access to both of the screws. And I lost my bit. Hold on while I get my bit. Got my bit back. Man, that was close. Didn't land too far away, so that's good. All right, so not gonna go anywhere. And our relay is nice and secured. All right, now let's take a look at where we want to hook up our fuse box. Okay guys, so I've decided to, after looking at the fuse box, I've decided to do a separate video for the fuse box. It looks a little bit more involved than what we're gonna have time for in this video, so I'll do a separate video on that. Because this already has a fuse on it, I'm not gonna worry about using the fuse box right now because there is already a fuse in here, a blade fuse. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to plug in the harness into the light bar and coil up and use zip ties to clean up the amount of bulk from the wires that we still have in here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and connect the light bar. All right, so the light bar is now connected, and let's go ahead and wrap up the other end. Again, this was a universal wiring harness, so this can be used for 2 different outputs. I'm going to wrap this up, the second output, wrap that up so it's there if I ever need it. Use zip ties, those are your friends, and it's always nice to take off the excess, make it look a little neater. All right, and let's find a good place to put this now. So this is the rest of the wiring harness going to the relay. All right, and since our relay's right here, our light bar is right here, we don't need a whole lot of slack. So go ahead and move these so they don't fall down in the engine bay. And find a good spot for these. And that looks like a good spot. I can go ahead and use a zip tie to tie everything up, and then use another zip tie zipped into that one like this to hold the harness onto the side of the vehicle so it doesn't flop around. So find a good spot here. That's good. And cut off the excess. And excess of the other one. All right. So this leg is good to go. I'll be putting this under this negative lead here because I'll need to undo that to put in our negative lead. So I'll move this underneath. Next stop is going to be wiring inside the cabin for the push button. All right, so let's go ahead and get into that. All right guys, so this is the brake master cylinder here. We're gonna go below and next to it, and we're gonna go, and this is what we're gonna be focused on here. It's gonna be this. This is a rubber grommet or boot that has all the wiring from inside the engine bay going into the cabin of the truck. So this is where we're going to run our switch wire. So there's 2 options. You can either go through where all the wiring is. It is kind of sticky in there from all the tape and adhesive, or you can poke your own hole between this lip and this lip here. Go right in there and poke your own hole. I've seen people do both. I've done both, not on this vehicle, but on other vehicles. And it's really up to you. It doesn't hurt anything if you cut through it. What I have seen people do to get the wires in there, because it is a tight fit, is using a coat hanger and taping the wires onto the coat hanger and pushing the coat hanger through after a slit has been cut in the boot. So I think that's what we are going to try. So let's get to it. Okay, so what I did is I went around into the cabin and I poked a hole through the boot, and I pushed a clothes hanger from the cabin out to the engine bay. The cabin area is very cramped, so I figured it would be a lot easier to do it from here. So what I'm going to do is go to the engine bay and pull the coat hanger, and that will pull the wiring into the cabin. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, and we have success. We have the button wiring going into the boot, into the cabin. So now we can go ahead and start wiring up the button so that we can turn this on and off, and we're going to mount the button inside with a factory look. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, and just to give you an idea on where the wire is coming in, it's going to be coming in there, so that that whole bundle of wires is where that boot is, and then this is the switch wire. Okay, so that is underneath the dash on the left side of the brake pedal, and that slit in the carpeting there, that is there made by the factory. I did not do that, so you'll see that on your truck as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get the switch panel off. So we're going to be using this spot here, the tall spot. So we're going to pop this whole bezel off, and we'll get behind that and see what's going on. Okay, guys, so we have taken off the faceplate, so you can see that here, and we're going to be using that buttonhole there. So all it is you go inside, and there's a couple clips, squeeze them, and the blank comes out, and now you have your hole ready to go. And this is going to be our push button, and it's actually not going to be the tall one, it's going to be the short one here. So let me do that, my fault. So we'll just remove the short one and put in our switch, and there it is, ready to go. So now it's time for wiring. So we have our wiring harness here, and this goes into the engine bay, and we have the harness for the Cali raised button. So if you see here, for the wiring harness we have a black, a white, and a blue, and for the Cali raised harness we have a green with yellow, 2 reds, and a black. All right, so the 2 reds are going to be put together. So we're going to put both of those together, and then the green and the black are going to be separate, and we are going to connect them to this wire harness. And for this, we're going to be using traditional butt connectors. So I'm going to be using some of these just because it's really hot and I don't want to use the heat gun and we don't need it to be waterproof in here. It just needs to have a good solid connection. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've connected the wires. So this is how the wiring goes. So the blue will go to the 2 red wires. So the blue goes to the relay. The red wires are going to be from the switch on off. The green will go to the white wire, and then the black will go to black, which is the ground. All right, so I've snaked the wiring harness up through the hole in the dash here. So we can go ahead and plug this in to the switch. Oops, wrong one. Make sure I plug it in right. Maybe. Come on. There we go. So we are plugged in, ready to go. We can go ahead and put this back, snap this back in. Perfect. All right, let's take a look and see how that looks. Yeah, buddy, look at that. Nice and factory. So this is our new button here. Let's go ahead and hook up the power and see if it works. All right, so we are at the final stage here. We just need to hook up the power. So first I'm gonna hook up the negative connection or the ground to this ground wire. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to move this harness underneath here. So this is a number 10 bolt. Alright, so just going to route this underneath. Perfect. And get our negative lead here. Screw that on tight. Nice, good connection. Good. And next is for the positive, or the power. Let's get this untangled. There we go. And this is going to go to the positive terminal of the battery. This. All right. And remember, this is just temporary because we're going to be putting in a fuse box. So this is temporary. Should we go here or here? Let's put it here with a bigger driver. Socket rather. There we go. That is a number 13. Okay, so here we go. And we'll tighten that down. Nice and snug. Put our boot back on. And we are ready to go, almost. Let's get these wires here, make them look a little nicer. So, put this down here. We'll use another zip tie to tie it all together, make it look a little neater. All right, and let me get some pliers to cut that. All right, and we are ready to rock and roll. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay guys, moment of truth. So the ignition is off. We do have the light bar hooked up directly to the battery, so we do not need a key in the ignition. So let's go ahead and try it. All right, so we can see that the button lights up blue, which is the same blue as the stock buttons. And I heard a relay trip on, so let's go see. Success! We did it! So this is the light bar. Awesome! We did it, you guys. Took some time, a little bit of patience, but we did it. We did it! Good job, you guys. All right, so that'll do it for this video. Thanks for stopping by. Please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment if you want. Let me know if I did anything wrong, if I should change anything. But I'm happy. So we'll get some shots of it in use. And until the next video.